Hey everybody, this is my buddy Ricardo's v-strom Suzuki DL650. This is what I borrowed when I was in town from Florida back to my hometown of the DC area. One thing you'll notice about me is I have nothing on my head, which is a very rare occasion for me. But everybody in Florida seems to be riding without helmets. So since I'm just going up and down the block, I figured I'd give it a try. And I feel naked without a helmet on. I feel as naked as if I showed up to the prom in nothing but some tighty whities. So I don't think that's a habit that I'm going to adopt just because I've moved to Florida and everybody else is doing it. While I was here, I laid my buddy's bike down. So always make sure you borrow a bike from somebody who is a real rider, who has put 50,600 miles on it, who's already laid it down in, you know, several of the 50 states in the United States. So he's not overly concerned like some people would be if their garage queen got laid down. But having ridden nothing but a scooter for the past year, I parked this at another friend's house. I left it in neutral. It was on a slight incline on the driveway. I mean a decline, and I walked away. And by the time I reached the steps, I heard crash. And so my buddy's gonna need a new blinker. He's gonna need a new clutch handle. Luckily I sent him a picture of this and he said that was already there. So that was a previous scar and scrape, so I'm not responsible for that one. But let's talk about the DL650. So this is a bike, I had one of these too. In fact, I bought one used off of a guy who had wrecked it. He had bought all the parts he needed to put it back together again, but then he got a different bike and never put it back together again. So I bought it and I brought the bike and all the parts to my buddy Ricardo's house, and he put it all together for me. So he's already well versed in the mechanics of these bikes. How long have you had this one?
4 years.
4 years. How many of these miles did you put on it?
I bought it with 10,000, so 40,000.
Yeah, 40,677. So one thing I'll tell you, again, I drive now a scooter, Honda SH150i, and everything I view, every two-wheeled vehicle now, I view through a lens of comparing it to that scooter. So I'm back in the DC metro area, I'm commuting, and this son of a bitch is heavy and it's wide. So normally when I'm commuting in the DC area, I want to be going to the front through the traffic at every single stoplight, because you can wait for a light to cycle 3 or 4 times. When I leave my house, the GPS says 10 miles or 38 minutes or 47 minutes. Like, it takes a long time to get around here. Typically when I get on a little scooter and I do the commute, I cut that 40 minutes down to like 20 minutes just by being able to filter through to the front of every light. If I'm stuck in traffic on a highway, I'm going on the shoulder. I know it's not legal, I understand, but I'm willing to take some of those risks. And so far I've only gotten one warning. But this bike is wide. I don't necessarily feel comfortable getting through traffic on it. Even with him leaving off the side cases, it just still feels quite a bit wide to me. There were times this week while I was commuting that I was able to get through, but the roads here are narrow because they're always trying to squeeze an extra lane, so it just wasn't as good for me commuting as on a regular scooter. It does have 6 gears. I find myself constantly searching, what gear am I in, what gear am I in, I forget. I wish it did have an indicator that would let me know what gear I was in, but what can you do? It does have wind protection, which I've missed, wind protection for my head, but coming off a scooter, it doesn't have much for my legs. And it was cold the day I arrived, so I would have liked to have some wind protection. This is a 650cc v-strom, which is also known as the Suzuki DL650. Other people call it a v-strom because there's a bigger 1000cc model, which on the forums people will refer to the v-strom as the 1000cc one, and the v-strom, the 650, the smaller, the baby brother of the bigger one. Looks like Ricardo's outfitted it with, this is aftermarket, right?
Yeah.
And some...
The Magstad windscreen.
Yep. Aftermarket windscreen, aftermarket lights on here. Definitely has some battle scars from being used the way a adventure bike should be used. You know, you take it out on adventures. What's going on with your storage over here? What's this for storage? What would you
That is for tools.
tools, okay.
So you can adjust your chain. There's like wrenches in there. Stuff that gets dirty. Just
Okay.
put it in there.
Then you've got mounts for panniers, a top case, passenger pegs. The center stand is optional or came with it?
Optional. I added
Optional,
that
so you added
recently.
that Nice. Where'd you pick it up? I know you were threatening to pick it
Happy
up.
Trails.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was pretty cheap. 130 bucks.
What do you think the top speed of this bike is?
110 miles an hour.
110 miles an hour?
Yeah, 110, 115.
So,
I had it in Nevada in the desert. 110 miles an hour for like 2 hours.
oh wow.
It's
Just
yeah,
straight,
it's
straight
pretty.
and flat and let's go.
Yeah, pretty incredible. It just keeps going.
And you added some heated grips here?
It's got the heated grips.
Nice.
Not the best kind. They're like the cheap ones.
Now, this one is kind of in a weird position in that you've got 50,000 miles on it, and you think about selling it, but with this amount of miles, and there's so many of these on the market, people are probably just going to buy one with lower miles. And you can't really lower the price so much. I mean, it's not like you're going to sell it for 500 bucks, because for 500 bucks, I might as well just keep it. I got a great motorcycle. So you're kind of in that in-between space, because people are selling them all day long for $3,000 with 25,000 miles.
Yeah.
You know, and $4,000 gets you one with 5,000 or 10,000 miles on it. So, you know, I don't know that you would keep this in your collection as long as you have, except for now, like.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck with it. Yeah.
Because it's worth more than somebody wants to give you for it, and it's a good, reliable bike. So, what are your favorite features about the bike?
I think the cheapness is what really drawed me to it. Like you can pick one of these up for 2,000-3,000, and bikes nowadays they're much more expensive. Like an Africa Twin is 15,000-16,000.
Right.
A BMW is like 20,000-24,000. So you can pick one of these up, and they'll do just about everything those bikes can
Right.
if you keep them on the road.
Right. And yeah, you know how to do your own maintenance, so you keep it running well. I mean, I just drove it for 5 days. I felt comfortable, like I would take it anywhere, drive it cross country. Any particular drawbacks, things you don't necessarily like about it?
The looks are kind of bland. They're not very exciting. It's always been kind of like a very bland bike. The electrics are also kind of crappy. Suzuki doesn't make good electrics. Every Suzuki I've had, it's got something. You notice something with the clutch cable, right?
Yeah,
That's
so I couldn't get it to start, and then I pulled up a forum and I said I've got a Suzuki v-strom 650, it won't start, and there was plenty of information about this switch here
Yeah, like
being a problem child.
Suzuki's got really bad electrics. I don't know why. Like, you know, the motor is excellent,
Right.
but it just seems like they don't have a very good fit and finish when it comes to electrical things.
But probably, you know, pick one up for $2,500 all day long. So it's not like I'm totally against bikes that can actually function at highway speeds. But for commuting, I was wishing I had taken your Yamaha C3, or actually what I was really wishing was that you still had your Honda Elite 110, that 2010 model. Because that would have been the perfect commuter for me. And what's that one have a top speed of? Like close to 60, 55, 60 with the 110 cc's? 50?
50, yeah.
On here. I mean, you've been cross country with this thing. You fill it up with a tank of gas. How many gallons is this holding?
You can get 200 miles per tank. I think it's got a 5 point something gallon gas tank.
Gotcha.
But I usually ride it to 200 miles and then I fill up at 200. But I think people push it to
You're not much of a
250.
gambler, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but it gets really good gas miles. I think it gets like 50 miles to the gallon.
Now,
55.
When you were out there doing the cross country trip, did you have a spare can just in case?
No.
You were never that far from a gas station that you had to worry.
You see those guys, the ADV guys, they carry like spare tires and like gas.
Right.
I always think it's overboard unless you go to like Alaska where you actually need that.
Right. I always think of like 1 gallon or something if I'm out in the middle of Nebraska and I can't find a gas
Yeah.
station. Next thing you know,
You see those guys around DC commuting and they still have the gas can. Like those are like the what posers are.
Those are the guys who say it's not how you ski, it's how you look when you ski.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the forward carburetor.
Never go back to the carbs. And it's pretty quiet for a V-twin, right?
Yeah, very quiet. You know what I forget about bikes compared to my scooter? There's so much here.
Yeah.
You could fit a pizza.
You don't need that much. That's what I'm finding.
Yeah, like I'm preferring things more compact now.
I do like the sitting position of the scooter.
Yeah.
It feels much more comfortable. But there's a stigma
You see
to
this,
the
this angle here.
yeah.
On my scooter, I like that it's like right here. I get that almost like I'm sitting at a dining room chair.
Yeah.
I'm Anthony Schreiber, the Vehicle Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, post one to Facebook, tell a friend. Thank you.